Maxwell has these special cutaway shapes called render booleans. There's a plane, there's a sphere, and there's a box. And what you can do with them is position them on objects from the exterior and then cut away a window into the interior. And it's particularly popular with people doing architectural renderings. I had an idea for an experiment I wanted to try. I wanted to see if I could capture the boundary edge of these cutaways and turn them into masks that would drive emitters and create kind of an energy pass-through effect. The first thing I did was plan the scene in Maya. And I made a plane and I took some objects that were modeled as shells so that the cross sections would be walls and with some thickness. And I planned them interpenetrating a plane. So you can see that basically goes like this. The next thing I did was I set up a render Boolean plane, and that's what this object is here. Now, the way that it's set up is that everything above it goes away and everything below it remains. And at the level of the plane itself, there's a cross section which occurs in black. So if you look at that, you see here there's a teapot, bit of a spout, bit of a handle. There's a cup down here and there's a lid up here. And if you look at it actually in a quick render, you can see that everything above that plane goes away. And the next thing I did was I created a second plane, which is not the one that does the cutting. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to, even though I have everything in kind of a white limbo, it's gray here because I have it a little bit dimmed down, but it's a white limbo, and the teapot and all of the other objects are sort of white Lambert kind of shaders. I still wanted to visually get rid of everything below that plane. So I created a second plane, which is also white, and which you can see it's not the cutting plane, but it's this one here. They're basically in the same place. So if I were to render this scene again, you can see that now, because the plane that cuts away the visual clutter is almost the same plane as the plane that does the Boolean cutting. So now what we're capturing is just the cross section and maybe just a hint of geometry below the cross section, but not enough to notice. And that's basically what I render, except that I render it from an orthographic camera that faces down from above. So if you look at the way that motion works, because it's an orthographic camera, you don't see anything coming or going. You just kind of see it when it slips through the plane. It doesn't change size in perspective as it goes, though. So here is the plane halfway through, and if you look at a quick render of that, and I have it brightened up here so that the white limbo is more like white. And so you can see that that's the animation that I render so that I can capture the cross-section as it animates. Over here on the left in the white square is what I rendered in Maxwell with the downward-facing orthographic camera. One of the things that I did with it is I made sure that motion blur was enabled when I rendered it so that you get this kind of streaking quality, because if you don't do that, you just get a series of cross sections at exactly the times when frames occur, and it doesn't really look like it's passing through something. It looks like it's just sort of a stuttering effect that captures the cross sections but not what happens in between the frames. So I preferred to have the look of the motion blur, although the other thing could be cool for some sort of other motion graphics thing. The other thing that I did was I wanted to have the effect where once it passed through, it kind of left a hot spot that kind of faded away. So I used, in After Effects, I used a sort of time echo effect, so that if you look here, for example, cup appears, and then on the right, the cup is gone, but here you can see the cup is still present and it's fading out. Or the teapot appears, and let's see, here's the spout, and here's the spout with the motion blur and time echo. And you can see that by now the spout is gone here, but it's still here, and it's kind of fading away. So here's how the render finally came out. There's a emitter, which is a warm color, and that's shining at the intersection points. And so you can see it has a lighting effect on things that are above it. And then there's a kind of a cool light, soft light shining down from above, just to kind of counter that and give some detail to what's not seen by the emitter. So you can see that there's the fading effect. So the cup goes through, and then the cup kind of fades out, or the teapot goes through, and then it kind of goes away. And the lid, same thing. So it's just kind of an experiment in motion graphics based on trying to find a new use for the render booleans in Maxwell Render.